back to the Red Devils Den podcast. We've got quite a few topics up for you today. We're going to be going through the West Ham game, the AC Milan game in the Europa League draw, and obviously the Leicester game in the FA Cup coming up. So yeah, first of all, we just had the Europa League draw earlier. I was in the barber, so I didn't see it. First of all. But about an hour after I saw it. So we got Granada, and then in the semi-finals we got Ajax or Roma. So United Resurgent, what is your opinions on that? What do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think that we've had a pretty favorable draw, honestly. Granada have conceded the most goals in La Liga. They've got the second worst XGA. They're not a good side defensively. Going forward, they're not particularly great either. And I think, honestly, we were able to easily take care of Real Sociedad, and I think this is a team that's significantly worse than Sociedad, so we shouldn't really have a problem over two legs. I think that's going to be a relatively straightforward tie to navigate. The semifinal is more interesting with either Ajax or Roma, but either way, I think we're in a good position. I think Ajax's style plays into our hands. They're an attacking side. They'll leave spaces for us on the counterattack. With Roma, they're probably not quite as attacking, and they do set up with three at the back a lot. It could be an issue trying to break them down, but they don't really have a lot of individual quality these days. And the players and the manager are falling out. There's rumors that Fonseca could be gone at any particular moment. So I really think that given the draw that we've been given, there's really no excuse for us not to be in the Europa League final this season.
Yeah, I would agree. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, as far as stats go, I don't really have much to add to that. I mean, I don't really watch La Liga much as I watch the Bundesliga, to be honest. But going off Resurgent stats, it doesn't seem like they're a very good side at all. It does seem like they're quite lucky to be as far into the competition as they are already, and I'm very confident we can do them over two legs, especially with their defensive record and their poor attacking record, considering how good we've been at keeping goals out at the moment, and how good we can be at going forward. I'm very happy with the draw, actually, because I was fairly certain that we was going to get Ajax or particularly Arsenal. I think Arsenal was probably the toughest draw because obviously we can't seem to beat them at the minute. Arteta has seemed to work totally out, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm very happy with the draw. I'm more confident for this Granada game than I was against AC Milan. I think AC Milan was probably the toughest tie left in the competition, aside from the English clubs, and obviously Tottenham going out is a massive plus for us as well. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah, Corey, do you think we can get through? And what about the semi-finals as well? What do you think about
that? I think we should cruise past Granada. I don't think they're much of a threat. I think they're just into the top 10 in La Liga. The last time I checked, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Eighth, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, thank you. I think Oli might rotate us slightly, given on the team, and Roma. It'd be interesting for Chris Smalling playing against us, with Mkhitaryan also playing against us. But I think Ajax will turn over Roma, so I think the Ajax is going to be more competition, given we beat them for the trophy in 2017. Terms on the final, I think we should be winning it because we are the best team apart from Arsenal. So it's really Arsenal and United who should be going to the final. Apart from that, I think we've got a pretty good chance.
Personally, I don't think it's going to be Arsenal in the final. I think we're going to be playing as Villarreal. I think they're a very decent side. Gerard Moreno is an excellent goal scorer. I think he's got close to 20 goals this season. They've got some excellent defenders. People have heard us linked to Pau Torres. He plays for them. They've got some other midfielders and other prominent players. I think that they're a good team, and Unai Emery is a specialist in this competition. He won 3 of them in a row at Sevilla, got to the final with Arsenal in his full season there. And I think that in the Unai Emery derby in the semi-final, because I do think that Arsenal will take care of Slavia, and then the Villarreal will take care of Dinamo Zagreb. So in the Unai Emery derby in the semi-final, I think Arsenal will go out, and it'll be us against Villarreal in the final is my prediction.
Yeah, you
I will say
mentioned.
on Ajax as well. I think they're sort of in between one of their many thousands of golden ages. Obviously, like we played them in the final in 2017, and then obviously their players progressed, and they were cherry picked by Europe's elite as they always do. You know, like De Jong went, De Ligt is gone as well, and I think the squad they have now is sort of in between development. I think it's like they've got some very good young players, but they haven't developed as to a sort of a level than the squad that they have before. I think they're sort of in between the many golden ages that they have at the moment. So I think I'm fairly confident we could beat Ajax if we do draw them.
Yeah, as you say, Ziyech went, Van de Beek went last summer. So this is a definitely depleted Ajax side. There, it's basically a mix of people like Dusan Tadic, who are kind of in the twilight of their career, and youngsters who are coming through like Gravenberch. And so I think that it's not exactly as intimidating of a proposition as it was 2-3 years ago. And then on top of that, honestly, I do think that the Ajax way, the Dutch total football tactics, will play into our benefit because Ollie knows how to set up a team on the counterattack, and they're going to give us space, and we're going to be able to just run the channels. And I think it'll be, if it's Ajax, I think it'll be a relatively straightforward win as well. I don't think that would be a challenging tie for us.
Yeah, can I just touch on the fact that Arsenal's opponents, Sylvia Prague, they managed to knock out Leicester. They could possibly go to Arsenal and shock them like they shocked Leicester. So I'm just saying, possibility.
It's possible, but Leicester took the competition quite a bit lighter than they should have, and Arsenal know they have nothing else to play for this season. So I do expect Arsenal to get through, although you're right, they could make it tricky. And they're a decent side. That's where West Ham signed Kufal and Thomas Suchek from. So they've got good players, and they've got more players coming through. So it's not like it's a bad team. It's just that I think they got a little lucky against Leicester, and I don't think lightning strikes twice.
Is that are they who just knocked Rangers out? Was it Slavia Prague who just knocked Rangers out?
Yeah, that was them.
Yeah, that's not an easy game for them either. I'm fairly surprised at that.
Yeah, I would just say never make a bet on Arsenal winning, never, because I reckon there is a good chance. As Corey's saying, Slavia can knock them out. But yeah, if we can get into the semi-finals with Ajax or Roma, I'm pretty sure we should be able to beat Granada. And then the final, could be anyone.
There's no way we're losing to Granada. I'm sorry.
No.
If we might Granada,
we might lose one match, right, honestly, because you never know with United. We lost to Sheffield United this season. We're one of the only teams that has. So with United, we could lose to anybody on our day. But the thing is, it's over 2 legs. And over 2 legs, I don't think there's any chance of us going out to Granada.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we've touched on everything we're going to touch on there. So we didn't get a chance to talk about the West Ham game, which was just under a week ago. I was quite impressed with that 1-0 own goal from a Bruno Fernandes corner. Dan, you said before you don't remember that much about it, but what was your take on it?
As far as I can remember, Lindelof was really good, and I was very impressed with him because Moyes obviously made a massive point of sticking Antonio right on him. He wanted him to bully him all game, run those channels, and he thought he was going to have Lindelof on toast. But he didn't. I thought Lindelof was excellent. He mastered him really well, and as far as I can remember, they didn't have many chances whatsoever. Obviously, Mason was unlucky not to score twice. Any other day, those two go in and they don't hit the post. I think Fabianski made a fantastic save for the first one, and he was just unlucky with the second one. But as far as anything else, I think it was fairly unmemorable, to be honest. And I can't really remember any massive things that are jumping out at me. I don't know about you boys.
Yeah, just sort of jump in. I think the thing that sort of impressed me the most was the maturity. There's not that much experience in the side, and I know sort of there's been a problem with seeing out leads in the past season or two, but I thought we did it incredibly well. It wasn't just seeing out the lead either, because all game we were really mature with the passing. It wasn't just taking risk for risk's sake. We passed backwards when we needed to, which I think is sometimes a problem with Bruno Fernandes, but I thought he played really well. I thought overall it was good. The ball retention great. which was quite poor against AC Milan in the second leg, certainly the first half. But yeah, against West Ham, it was pretty much spot on. Of course, there wasn't that many chances because they sat back, but I thought under the circumstances, it was really good. But Corey, what was your thoughts? He's disappeared.
Yes, well, Corey's getting back on. There we go.
Go on.
Something's happening with my Zoom. Has just crashed down or something. What was your question again? You was cutting out, but
what was your thoughts on the West Ham game?
it felt like a no, to be honest. I just think we got very lucky with the Craig Dawson on goal. We didn't lose, but I just don't see any positives apart from getting a clean sheet from Henderson's perspective. Lindelof had a very good game. I think he was the man of the match. I think the confidence is being lifted slightly every game, whether that's because there's Dean Henderson in goal rather than David, I don't know. Wan-Bissaka, he's improved his defending massively this season. Same as Luke Shaw, who we didn't expect. We always expecting Alex Telles to be our number one left back. Lindelof and Maguire, they had very good games recently. You were talking about Greenwood not scoring them 2 goals. I think that's just because of all the teams. They know what Greenwood can do. They're just the knowledge that.
No, I wasn't saying it was anything. It was Greenwood's fault. I was just saying he was really unlucky because obviously he hit the post twice. The first one was a brilliant save. It was nothing to do with him.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with teams figuring him out. Honestly, he hit the post twice. If they had figured him out, he wouldn't have had those chances to begin with. It's just one of those things where it wasn't his day. He hit the post. He's been in a little bit of struggling form with his finishing of late, but hopefully that'll turn around soon. And the good thing is he's at least getting in those positions.
Yeah, he's getting in the positions, taking chances. But if they're going in, that would help him massively going into the next season. So it's just about if he can score sooner rather than later, then that's going to help everyone.
They often talk about, when foreign players come over and they're fantastic for one season. None are jumping out at me at this exact moment, but they talk about second season syndrome, don't they? That's quite a term quite often used, and I think Green was experiencing a bit of that, to be honest, because obviously he overperformed last season massively. He scored 17 goals or something like that. So I just think he's experiencing a bit of second season syndrome at the moment. I'm not concerned massively about it because, he is still so young. He's 19 years old. He's obviously susceptible to some poor behaviours or poor management, whatever you want to call it, when he went away with England. But Ollie seems to be working with him really, really well, and he seems to have got him back on track. And he seems to have good people behind him at home as well. Like, I know his dad's very involved with his development as well, and so with the club, they won't let him do interviews and things like that. So I'm not concerned about his form at the moment. I think he definitely will pick up again. He's still so young, and he's working with one of the best box in the box strikers there is. So I'm not concerned about Mason. His form will pick up and hopefully towards the end of the season to give us a bit of a boost.
It's important to remember that we went through a similar process with Marcus Rashford. People just look at the goals column and say, oh, he scored 8 goals in his first season and 11 in his second, so he was improving. But if you really look at it, then he scored 8 goals in 18 appearances in his first season. Then he scored 11 in 53. So he went from about 1 in 2 to about 1 in 5. So it was a little bit of a slump for him as well in his second season. So it's not surprising to see that from Mason Greenwood. Like you say, it tends to happen quite frequently with players. Not just with players, it actually happens a lot with teams as well. When they get promoted, the first season they do really well. And second year, they do what Huddersfield did a couple of years ago and just go straight back down with a whimper.
Sheffield United this season.
Exactly. So it's not that uncommon. I thought the West Ham match, honestly, wasn't as bad as a lot of people were making out. We had a decent performance. We hit the post or the woodwork twice. We scored off an own goal. We created a few chances. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most, and I know that you guys touched on Lindelof, and I think this is true for West Ham and Milan and the Manchester Derby and Chelsea and all the matches we've played recently, is United have been very fortunate that when one part of the team has failed, the other one has clicked at that exact moment. In the first half of the season, the defense was horrible. And when the defense was struggling, we were able to score. When when we were 2-0 down to Southampton, we were able to win that game 3-2. When we were 2-1 down, I think, to West Ham, we were able to turn that around to 3-2. So, or it might have been 1-0 to 3-1. But the point is, we were able to score these 2, 3, 4 goals a game. And it was okay that the defense was conceding 1 or 2 goals. Now, the attack isn't performing. Most of it's injured, honestly. And we're keeping clean sheets regularly. I think it's 6 in the last 7 matches. And that's provided us a platform where even though the attack is struggling, now the defense is clicked, so the attack doesn't have as much burden on them. And we've been very lucky that those two things have occurred kind of at the right times, because obviously if you have the strikers unable to score and you're conceding regularly, then you start losing matches and the manager ends up under pressure, like we saw with Frank Lampard. So I think we've been very fortunate in a good way that we've been able to make sure that when the attack started slowing down, the defense took over as the engine of the team.
Yeah, just sort of back on Greenwood. Corey said it's his sort of lack of form this season is at least partly due to teams sort of figuring out. I know West Ham obviously let him have a few opportunities, so maybe it wasn't the case with them. And he does sort of have a good record with West Ham. But Greenwood actually did say himself in an interview that he thinks teams have sort of figured him out a bit this season. So I think there's got to be one of the coaching staff has sort of mentioned that, and if one of them has said it, then I think there's a good chance there's some truth in it. But I just don't think teams are giving him as much space as they usually do, because when you give him space, he's going to score. And he's just not really. I don't know if he's not getting in those positions, or he's not as confident to shoot. I don't know, but yeah.
I think there is an element of truth in that to a degree, because I can off the top of my head I could think of 4 or 5 times last season where he's done a step over with his right and he's brought it out to the left and he's cut back in. You think of the goal he scored against Bournemouth, probably the one against Brighton, against Aston Villa. There was one in the Europa League as well. So, but also this season he's massively adapting his skill set. We see him, his hold up play is getting there. He is getting better physically, holding the ball up a little bit better. It's not quite there yet, but he's got loads of time.
The thing is, go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, I was just going to say, he's been, when he has been in the 9, he's come out into the channels and he's been linking up play and he's been putting some really, really good balls into the box. Like the one at the weekend against West Ham where Marcus should have buried it. That was a fantastic ball. So he's improving other areas of his game, and the goals will come back. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. So on that, just looking at the underlying numbers real quick, for Mason Greenwood last season, he had an expected goals per 90 minutes of 0.23. This season, Mason Greenwood has an expected goals per 90 minutes of 0.23. It is exactly the same. The only difference is last season he was scoring 3 times his expected goals, and now he's scoring 1/3 of them. So it's basically just that the finishing has deserted him a little bit. Luck has deserted him. But we know he's an excellent finisher from his time in the youth ranks, and that'll turn around. So his overall performances really aren't all that different than they were before.
Yeah, I think next season, when the season ends, we'll have the time that they go, hey, they have that time to rest. I think when they get that time to rest, I think that will just refresh their bodies and their mindsets. Like, okay, this season I didn't score as many goals as I did the one before. This season we are going to go fresh. We're going to do what we can to improve. And I think Rashford, Martial, if we keep Cavani, and Greenwood and James, I think they will start scoring lots of goals next season. We might get some silver next season as well.
I think you have to. It's easy to forget as well how different this season is. This season's a bit of an anomaly as far as seasons go. The players are playing so many matches, so many minutes. It's not going to do their bodies any good. It's not going to do their minds any good as well. They come out of games the next day. It's recovery work. There's barely any time to put into the actual tactics that Solskjaer wants to put in, because they'll be doing games, recovery, and then specific match tactics. They don't really get all that much time. And I mean, the Euros come at a really, really poor time actually after this massively hard season. You can see how some players are dead on their feet. Like Rashford and Bruno against, I think it was in the West Ham game, there was that picture of both of them. Bruno's holding his leg, and Rashford's sort of hunched over. So I think every player could do with a really good rest, and that's why it's a shame as well that the international break that is coming up is actually going ahead, and they're not going to use it as a break for the players. Because after the Euros next season, how long of a rest are they going to get realistically before going into another Premier League season, competing in 4 more competitions?
Yeah. We're talking about Greenwood. Would you see him struggling because he is the striker? Obviously, Rashford's better on the left. We haven't got Martial and Cavani at the moment. When they come back, would you see Greenwood shift onto that right hand side and expect James to go back to the bench, or would you keep Greenwood at striker for now?
No, there's absolutely no way that I would stick with Mason Greenwood over Edinson Cavani for sure. If it was him and Martial, it's probably a little bit closer, but I think that we probably would want to try Martial and then Greenwood on the right. Dan James has his uses. He's been a very good presser. He scored a couple of goals lately, but I don't think he offers as much to the front three on the whole as Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford, Edinson Cavani, or Martial in half decent form. The problem is Martial's form this season hasn't been half decent. So the biggest thing is going to be trying to recover some form for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the talking about the internationals coming up, I think it actually could be a positive for some players. Because if you look at Martial and Pogba coming back from injury, they can really get up some sharpness and some fitness. Because Pogba took absolutely ages to get back to his best when he was injured. It took a good couple of months into the season before he was really playing like he should be. I think his confidence was sort of struck by that as well as Martial. So I think if they can get a couple of games for France, both of them, then they can sort of get back into their stride. Maybe I don't know how much Martial will play because he hasn't been informed, but I'm sort of surprised he was called up. But yeah. Okay, I wanted to talk about Pogba a bit because there's obviously been some speculation about him staying, maybe signing a new contract. I know he's flip-flopped a bit about, I'm happy, I'm unhappy. But United decision, what do you think is going to happen then? Do you think he should stay or?
Okay, so I have a fun game for us to play that's going to help us kind of figure out what we really think about this. So I want to pitch you guys on a Pogba replacement, and I want to see what you guys think about this player. This player has 5 goals and 3 assists this season. He had 1 goal and 4 assists last season. This is in all competitions. And he's missed 54 matches through injury in the past 2 seasons for his club. 54 matches. Would you sign this player to replace Paul Pogba?
This is Paul Pogba.
Right, this is Paul Pogba. And that's what I wanted to get at, that when you take the name away and really look at the numbers and the amount of matches he's missed, he's not been a reliable world-class superstar for United. He had 1 good half season under Solskjaer when he first came in. He had probably a decent time under Mourinho in the first year when Zlatan was here. But other than that, he's been up and down, constantly inconsistent, if that makes any sense. He's been injury-prone the last 2 years. He's on 290K a week. I'm sure he wants a raise, so he'd be well over 300K a week in wages. He's 27, 28 years old, so this is the last chance to move him on. And the other thing that gets under my skin the most, honestly, is if you look at the rumors over the last 2 years, there was the summer window where he was on that tour in the Far East, and he said, it might be time for me to move on. And then the club made him stay. 6 months later, we signed Bruno Fernandes, and then all of a sudden, Paul's thinking about staying at United because he's convinced about the project. And then we had a somewhat rough first couple of games of the season, and we went out of the Champions League, and all of a sudden, Mino Raiola comes out, Paul Pogba wants to leave Manchester United. And then now we're in decent form again. Looks like we might have a chance at 2 cups, and Paul Pogba might be open to staying at the club. This will he, won't he nonsense. The circus that surrounds Paul Pogba. And it's not Mino Raiola. I thought it was for the longest time, but Erling Haaland is a Mino Raiola client. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a Mino Raiola client. Henrik Mkhitaryan is a Mino Raiola client. It's not just the agent. It's Paul Pogba. It's his family. It's his agent. It's the entire circus that surrounds him that will continue to be a parasite on this club. I said this week on Twitter, my most controversial take on United is Mourinho was partly right when he said Pogba's a virus. And I stand by that completely. I think this he's not willing to commit to the club. He's not willing to put in the effort constantly. We see he'll have 3 good games and then he'll have 6 bad ones. He won't track back necessarily some of the times. He's not an obvious fit in the system with Bruno Fernandes. I really do think the club would be best served by ending this nonsense once and for all, cashing in on him and replacing him. And that's the key word here, replacing him. If you're telling me that we can't replace him, then absolutely keep Paul Pogba, because we can't have just one creator in the team. But if the option is there to replace him with Fabian Ruiz, with Florian Neuhaus, with the 500 other players, Jack Grealish can play the number 8 role, whoever it may be that fits in the club's budget that we're looking at. Saul Niguez is supposedly available right now. There's so many names out there. Cash in and replace him with someone who's more dependable and more reliable. That would be my position.
Who would we replace Paul Pogba with?
Well, I just gave you like 4 names right there, Corey.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. If we need somebody who can create goals and also who can help the defense. We need somebody who can play the games. We can't have another injury prone.
Florian Neuhaus, Fabian Ruiz.
But who would you pick in particular?
I would take Florian Neuhaus if I had the choice. People who follow me on Twitter will know I'm a huge fan of Neuhaus. Yeah. I think he's got more goal and assist contributions than Pogba. I haven't checked his numbers. I've just been watching him play for Gladbach. I think he's got a 40 million euro release clause in the summer, which is going to be 35 million pounds, an absolute bargain for somebody. Supposedly Liverpool are looking at him. And we will have Champions League football. They won't next season probably. And so for me, I think he would be my number 1 target to go and replace him. The beauty of getting Neuhaus is you'd probably get 40, 50 million for Pogba. You'd sign Neuhaus for 35. That would give you 5, 10 million extra to throw into your transfer kitty towards another target as well. And he's a younger player, more resale value, and he's more willing to do, he's more consistent from what I've seen as well. So I that's who I'd go with, but there's a good case for the other names that I threw out there as well. I don't really think that there's a shortage of replacements for Paul Pogba. I think the problem is the club will look at it and say, well, Paul's already here. We're not going to have to negotiate with anybody else. We can save some time, focus on other targets. And it's just cheaper and easier for them to say, okay, you know what, give Paul 350K a week and move on. And when his effort level dips in 6 months, when he's flirting with Real Madrid again on the next international break because United went out of the Champions League in the round of 16 next season, then we're going to regret that. And I think this is, I shared a video on Twitter earlier today. He's the lesson that we can't seem to learn. And I really think that it's time the club learned that lesson.
Who would take Paul Pogba in the summer? Is it Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona? Who would be open?
PSG's not bad, to be fair.
How much would you willing be saying to let Pogba leave United? What would that transfer sum be?
45 million pounds.
Yeah, and he's got a year left on his contract.
You'd sell him for fucking 10.
I wouldn't go that far. It's just he has 1 year left on his contract. I wanted 100 million for him last summer, the year before. The problem is he's got a year left on his contract. We don't have a lot of choice in the matter.
Would you say like 60 or 70 mil then?
1 year left on his contract. You're not going to get 70 million in a pandemic market. It's just grossly unrealistic. It's like the people who say we're getting 50 million for Jesse Lingard. It's insane.
Yeah.
Just Lingard, the piece what you on about?
What? I don't know. We'll move on from Jesse Lingard being the best player of all time.
Lingard to you.
Yeah, I was looking at Neuhaus's stats yesterday because I did an article on I know United Resurgent saw it on what players I would sign in the summer, and looking at his sort of percentile stats, I think he was in the 89th percentile for progressive carries, like the 85th for progressive passes, and McTominay and Fred are like in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So it'd be a big upgrade on them. And I know, he's the same sort of player as Pogba because he gets some goals, some assists, but he just sits in there and progresses the ball really consistently.
So that's actually one of the things. If you look at him under Marco Rosa, he's adapted from being the type of player that Paul Pogba is and always has been, the most attacking of the 3 midfielders, into the one who can play the kind of the attacking role in the midfield pivot, which is what we really need. And so I think he's actually a better fit for all these tactical vision than Paul Pogba, because Pogba, when he comes in, if you play a midfield of Bruno Fernandes in the 10 role, then you have to play Pogba either where Fred is, and then you have a defensive midfielder who's going to be completely overwhelmed unless we spend 80 million pounds on that position. Or you're going to play him on the wing, which is not his best position and doesn't really get the best out of him. So it's just Florian Neuhaus fits much better into that Fred role in the tactical scheme, and he's slightly more defensive than Pogba, but he has the similar creative ability, and so I think he's just a better fit.
Yeah, Dan, what's your take
on the Pogba situation? I don't know. I think when he came in, he was sort of destined to fail, given the price tag. I think that there's always been an air of negativity surrounding him, regardless of how good or how bad he's been. Anyway, I think for United fans, he's probably one of the most frustrating players we've ever had. I think Martial's well up there as well, to be honest, because you know how good he can be. You know how good he can be. On his day, he's easily top 5 midfielders in the world. He can do everything. He can pass probably as good as Paul Scholes ever could. He's got goals in him. He's big, he's athletic. He's a threat in the box. But he just hasn't, as Sergio was saying, he just hasn't done it consistently over the past 5 years. And it sort of has to get to a point where, how many chances are you going to give this man to come into his prime? I mean, he's 28 now. He's well in his prime. Theoretically, he should be playing the best football of his life. And I mean, I guess he has been, when he's been informed this season. But just to echo Resurgent's point, how long before he dips in form again, or we go through a bad patch, and he something else comes out into the press. I mean, it was before the Leipzig game. Was it Mino came out saying saying things like that? So yeah, I'm very, very tired of that whole circus with Mino Raiola. And as Resurgent was saying, there's plenty of players that are represented by Mino Raiola who don't cause a lot of problems. I know Donnarumma had some problems. I think he's a Mino client as well. The Pogba situation is just very, very frustrating, because how good he can be, but he's got baggage. He's got a lot of baggage, and I don't know if it's worth having to carry that baggage for him, and especially with the wages he's on as well. So I would love him to stay. I would love him to keep playing the way that he is now, and sort of come to an agreement with the club. And as long as he's happy, we're happy, and we all live happy families. But I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. So maybe it is time to move on.
The thing is, people always think back to the most recent events around Paul Pogba. They're thinking about him inspiring us, his goals that have won matches kind of since mid-December. And they think, oh, Paul Pogba is this fantastic world-class player. And at his best, like you said, he can be top 5 in the world. I'm not disputing that. But what they don't remember is before that spell of form, we all wanted him dropped for Scott McTominay and Fred, because he was abysmal against Tottenham. He had a couple of bad matches around that time in October, November. And people said, Paul Pogba doesn't deserve a starting spot. Again, people will go back and say when Ollie first came in, Paul Pogba was the best player in the team. And he was for 3 or 4 months. But then people also forget Paul Pogba was also the one who didn't track back his runners against Huddersfield and Cardiff City when we lost towards the end of the season to those teams. So there's good and bad that comes with Paul Pogba. And personally, I'd rather have a player who gives you 6 out of 10 every week than a player who's 2 1 week and 8 the other.
Yeah, I can sort of agree with that. I do see he's been quite consistent when he's had a run of games. But then sort of, when he gets injured, he's just back to low confidence, low performances again. He gets injured quite often as well, as we touched on. But yeah, Corey, what is your sort of take on Pogba's situation? Would you keep him? Do you think he's going to stay?
I like Pogba, but there's the issue that he doesn't help the defense, and he's not the level that everyone is expecting from Pogba. He's not producing those high levels that we need. I get what people are saying. Sal Pogba, he's awful for us. The circus, he's staying, he's going, he's staying, he's going. Talking to Real Madrid privately, talking to Barcelona, PSG, whatever. Personally, I'm a Paul Pogba fan. I like when Paul Pogba plays, but I think we have to settle this as good for the club. And I think in the summer he will have that year left on a contract. I think the best way to do is get rid of Pogba, bring in new young players like Ollie wants with Wan-Bissaka and Donny van de Beek, young, hungry people who want to win trophies at high clubs. And I think the names that you've all suggested, I think we should be getting those players.
Okay, so in terms of the Leicester City game in the FA Cup, it's at the King Power Stadium, right? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you know, a couple of players to rest, maybe. You know, they are one of, you know, the best teams in the Premier League. I think they're four, something like that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. United Resurgent, what do you think about the game?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that stands out to me looking ahead to this one is United have excellent away form, but we're pretty dodgy at home. Leicester have the opposite problem, or have the same issue rather, where they're dodgy at home and have good away form as well. And we happen to be the away team here, so I think that favors us. And I think broadly speaking, while the two teams are similar in league position and they've got kind of similar ambitions for the rest of the season, I do think United have the better squad ultimately, and I think that we'll manage the injury crisis both teams are facing that little bit better, and it'll end up being a narrow victory.
Yeah, fair enough. Corey, what do you think?
Well, I think we have the advantage, given us we are the away team. I think we've gone 24 games unbeaten now away. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Leicester at home, they've got a few key players injured or some not be able to play, which is good for us. They'll be able to use some of the players that they wouldn't prefer to use. We have the same argument. I think Rashford might be back, so I think that'll give us a bit of a confidence boost on the left. Cavani might be a doubt, same as Martial, but
from what I've seen, Cavani, Rashford, and Martial are all doubts. I don't expect any of them to play, or at least to start.
Yeah, but we do play out on a Sunday, and it's only Friday, so I think we have to wait either tomorrow or Sunday morning for when we do get.
Honestly, even if he's fit, this is the perfect time to tell Marcus Rashford to take a seat. I was worried about this ahead of the West Ham match last week, and I was saying on Twitter, Ollie, please don't do this. Don't play Marcus Rashford, because I was worried he'd be injured or fatigued for Milan. And then we saw exactly that happen. Thankfully, we were able to get through the match. But
I think Solskjaer actually said that he was going to be out on Sunday, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And then, or are you talking about this Sunday or last week?
This Sunday coming. I think I saw a direct quote saying that he won't be ready for Sunday.
Yeah, I think he said it was highly unlikely, so I don't expect him to play. I think he'll miss this one out entirely, and then we'll probably have Martial on the bench or something.
Yeah, thanks for those updates. Yeah, so I think if we don't either get to the final or win the trophy, I think that's not going to be good enough. We need trophies. I think we have the squad to win the FA Cup and to go far in every competition. Last season we got to 3 semi-finals and we lost them all. We can't be. That's not what we expect.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's sort of. Dan, what do you think of the prospect sort of winning the FA Cup? Because I think it would be a massive sort of positive. Obviously, there is a sort of problem with semi-finals, especially if we get Man City again. What do you think?
Yeah, I think City are probably one of the only hurdles to face in the FA Cup. I firmly believe that we're easily the second best team in the country. The winning the FA Cup would be fantastic. You know, it's a brilliant trophy, historical. You know, famous in England, and it's also domestic. You know, it's in England. It's not European Cup as well. So it'd be a great trophy to have. But then again, so would any silverware. You know, I'd take a League Cup win, an FA Cup win, or Europa League win. Just, you know, to light the fire in some of these players that have never tasted a trophy before, you know, make them want to crave more. You know, this side definitely needs a trophy, and I would love it to be the FA Cup. I mean, to me, it's special because I think the first United game I ever went to was an FA Cup game, so that just makes it a bit more special for me personally. And I've always loved the FA Cup anyway. And I would love to win it, but I'd love to win the Europa League as well.
For me, I'd say probably the FA Cup is that little bit more special. The reason is it's a trophy that we want to be in every season and we want to win it every year. The thing is, the Europa League is a second tier competition. We don't want to be in it. So while we're in it, we want to win it, but we don't want to be in it. It's like if we were relegated somehow and in the championship, we want to win the championship, but we don't want to get relegated and win the championship and say we won a trophy. And I think it's a similar situation with the Europa League at the European level. So I'm not a huge fan of the competition, and while we're in it, I want to win it. But winning the FA Cup would be more special to me. And I think, like you said, Man City are the biggest hurdle, but I think people are sleeping on Chelsea a little bit. You know, they've been resurgent. They knocked out Atletico Madrid, and they've got an easy draw in this round. There's a very good chance that Chelsea could be the team we face in the semifinal, and that would be just as difficult, in my opinion. Because we've seen Ollie kind of has Pep's number. He's got a winning record against him. Tuchel, it's been very mixed. You know, we've seen they kind of alternate wins. So I think that could be a difficult one as well.
Yeah, Chelsea have been so tough recently, tough to break down, tough to score against, and you know they score fair share goals as well. So I think if we do get them all three, it's going to be really tough. But you know, I think we can go through. But yeah, in terms of starting 11, in terms of lineups, I want to sort of get your thoughts on that. So, Corey, who would you sort of start in goals? What would your defence be?
In goal, I think Dean Henderson has to play this game simply because David hasn't played a game since he went to Spain. And I think playing him in the FA Cup, that's not the way to do it. We have to ease David in slowly. And Dean's been on fire recently, so I think common sense, use Henderson. He's got loads of clean sheets. I feel like when we have Dean in goal, the defense is more relaxed, they're comfortable, they know Dean will come out, challenge the attackers, he will come for that ball. But with David, I think he's scared that he's going to get kicked in the face. But Dean, he don't care about that, so I think Dean will start in goal.
I think Dino would have played regardless if David never went. I think, you know, even if the switch wasn't made, I mean, Dino may potentially be the number one now, but obviously we don't know till after the international break. But even if David was fit and his wife never had a baby, I think Dino would have been playing this game regardless.
I think actually it would be very interesting. I want to start Dean Henderson, just to be clear, but I think it would be interesting if the team sheet came out and it said David De Gea was starting, because if Ollie's playing De Gea in a cup match, does that mean Dean Henderson is the league keeper now? I mean, it would be a very interesting 2 weeks of us kind of musing amongst ourselves over who the number one keeper actually is. But yeah, I think it's a big match. I think the way to go is to stick with Dean Henderson.
Yeah, I think Henderson deserves this number one keeper. So I think Dean Henderson is our number one. I think David's had his good 10 years at the club. I think it's now time for Dean Henderson.
Yeah,
well, so, Paul Scholes was saying last night in the afters of the Milan game, he thinks that Dino's the number one now, but obviously we don't know until obviously after the international break. So it is going to be an interesting couple of weeks, isn't it?
Spoiler alert, he's not the new number one keeper. He's going to be back on the bench when the league season kicks back off. That's just we've seen it with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He does not like to drop players. He gives them every possible opportunity. And we've seen, like with Jesse Lingard, it took a lot for him to lose his place in the team. And we saw that with Anthony Martial. And so I think that David De Gea will be seeing out the season as the league goalkeeper for us. But honestly, for us at this point, the cups almost matter more given top four is nearly locked up. So in a way, being the cup keeper is like being the number one.
No, I still think Henderson has to play this game. I don't see David doing very well.
Oh, I'm all for
Also-
starting Dean Henderson in this match. I'm just talking about in the league. I think we're going to see David De Gea come back in, and traditionally, you say your number one keeper is the one who starts in the league, right? So, by traditional terms, I think David De Gea is still the number one, even though he shouldn't be.
Yeah, but if you want to win match, you would play your best players, and I think Henderson has to play those games because they are the important games we have to win. So
Which ones
why
are we talking about, league or cup?
both? Any game that's
No, you don't play one goalkeeper in both sets of competitions. No big team has done that for about 10 years now. There's a cup keeper and a league keeper. You don't rotate keepers. You definitely don't rotate keepers depending on the opponent. That's a suicidal strategy. No team has two or three goalkeepers and says, "We'll just pick it based on the opposition." I don't think I've ever seen that work. So at this point, I think really at this point, whatever the situation is, we have a cup goalkeeper and we have a league goalkeeper. The way that things have always operated, just who's which is the only thing up in the air right now.
There's definitely a decision to be made over the summer in regards to who the number one is. I can definitely see David seeing out the season as the number one. I mean, whenever Ollie's asked about him, he heaps the praise on him. And I know that he really, really rates David De Gea, but he's cost us a lot of points, in my opinion. So, as soon as Dean is number one, the better, but that's just my opinion. Anyway.
That's basically what I was trying to get at, that I think Dean Henderson will start at Leicester, and then when we get back from the international break, De Gea will start in goal in the league. Dean Henderson will play in the cups. And then in the summer, Ollie will say, "Thank you very much, David. It's time for you to fuck back off to Spain." So I think that's basically what we're looking at. That's the roadmap that I see moving forward, for better or for worse.
Get that fax machine sorted.
When we do get rid of David and Dean Henderson becomes our number one keeper, who would be that backup keeper that we need?
We probably have to sign one. I mean, you could argue Nathan Bishop could play that role, but he wouldn't be the one that I would go with. I'd probably sign a more experienced goalkeeper for backup. Maybe like Ben Foster if he wants to come back and do that job again for a year or two.
I would love them vlogs.
Yeah, I think
we are talking about selling Sergio Romero as well. He hasn't been in Ollie's transfers.
Yeah, he deserves
that's
a move
whole
anyway.
other conversation. The club and Ollie honestly as well have treated Sergio Romero so poorly. He is a great servant to the club as a backup goalkeeper. He was dropped for semifinals for no reason for finals and semifinals last year for no apparent reason. And then he was just basically told, "You're not the number two goalkeeper anymore." Because we want to go ahead and give Dean Henderson a chance, which is fair enough. But then let him move on loan, and we blocked his loan moves. He's been poorly treated. I wish him the best wherever he goes.
Yeah, Sergio Romero was a fantastic servant to the club, as you say. When he was number two, he never kicked off about it. He knew his place. He came in, he did a job, and he was, when we had him, we boasted about having the best number two goalkeeper probably in the world. Because he's a fantastic keeper, and he really does deserve to be starting somewhere, especially the age that he is. He wants to get back into the Argentina squad. I don't know if he's still the number one.
Probably Emi Martinez at this point.
Sorry?
I think probably Emi Martinez is the number one for Argentina. He's been so good for Villa.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, but no, he came in, he did his job. One thing that I've always praised Jose for, which is a rarity, is the fact that in the Europa League final, Sergio Romero did keep his place, and he played throughout the whole competition, and he played in the final as well. I thought that was excellent because a lot of clubs do sort of play the number one in the final. So that was good. So I think, he really deserved the move last season. I think Everton were in for him. I think they offered about 10 million, was it?
Something like that, yeah.
But obviously, I don't think the club wanted to sell to what they perceived as a direct rival, which is understandable. But I think they could have done more with finding him a club.
This whole thing could have been handled so much better. Last year, you say, "Okay, Sergio, we want to try out Dean for a season. We're going to loan you out to Spain or wherever, so you're not a direct rival." He goes, he plays for a year, he comes back, and then the decision is made this summer. We're going with Dean Henderson. David De Gea gets moved on, and then Sergio Romero comes back as the number two keeper. But because of the way the club poorly handled it, that bridge has been burnt, and he's going to leave the club on a free transfer. And it's just a shame because he is a quality number two goalkeeper.
Yeah, because they could have had 10 million from Everton, but now he probably will go on a free. And I think if we played Romero in them semi-finals and finals, I think we could have possibly had a better outcome last season.
Well, he just got sort of left out in the cold, which is very unlike the club, to be honest. I think that's really unlike Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
I think back to the FA Cup semi-final last season when we lost to Chelsea, and David De Gea made two mistakes for the goals that they scored.
Yeah.
And if Ole sticks with Sergio Romero in those matches, there's a chance we're in the FA Cup final, and maybe we won the FA Cup final last season.
Yeah,
I thought it was a terrible, terrible mistake. One of the biggest selection mistakes in Ole's time as manager.
I think Sergio Romero is a very good keeper, but the fact that not playing for a season, that's going to damage a lot for him, and the transfer fee included. I don't think we'll get much money as
I think he deserves.
There's no transfer fee. He's going on a free transfer.
No, if there was,
there isn't. His contract is expiring. All he said he's not going to be renewed.
He deserves to be starting. He's a quality keeper, and the treatment of him has been so poor. I remember his wife came out after the summer, didn't she? And she was hurling abuse at United, saying how badly that they treated him, and rightly so. I mean, you've got to hold your hands up and say that he's been treated really badly by the club, which is really unlike Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's management, especially. He's one of the best managers, that we know. So it's really strange he was left out in the cold, and it seemed to be for no apparent reason. He's been an ultimate professional. He's come in, he's done his job, he's trained well. He's never come out in the media saying anything about the club. He knew his place on the bench. So it's really strange that he was left out.
I mean, for all we know, it could have been, the likes of Edward Wood and Matt Judge. They were just saying, no, we're not selling him for 10 million. And then Ole Solskjaer didn't really have a choice.
Well, that's fine, but then get him a loan move, right? I mean, you can. I'm not saying you have to sell him, but you can try to get him a loan move. You can do something, make him feel more comfortable in January. Then they know he's leaving in 6 months. They still demanded a fee, and that kept him here for 6 months where he didn't need to be, and it's hurting his career. It's been really poorly managed, and I would hope, and that blame goes to both Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I would hope with John Murtaugh and Darren Fletcher now in advisory positions as the football director and the technical director, they can kind of help us prevent making similar mistakes in the future. Because we've done this before. You look at Bastian Schweinsteiger when Jose Mourinho came and he was told to train with the youth team for 6 months. Victor Valdez fell out with Van Gaal. He was told to train with the youth team for 6 months. It's just we've had issues like this in the past and it seems to be more so with goalkeepers, where we seem to have these issues where we don't handle their departures in the best way possible. And hopefully the new structure will help with that.
So, I mean, you mentioned, obviously, Emi Martinez, his fellow countryman. You only have to look that far to see that, he could probably have a similar resurgence to him. He's starting at Villa now. He's doing really, really well. And I'd love Sergio Romero to move to a club and be their number one and do really well. Because I've got nothing but love for Sergio Romero. Whenever he came in, he barely made a mistake. And he was probably the best number 2 goalkeeper, probably in Europe at the time. He was excellent, way too good to be a bench player anyway. I was surprised that he stayed for as long as he did, because he could easily be starting for a decent club in Europe. So I look forward to him moving on in the summer, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about the defenders now.
Yeah, we've gone on for ages about Henderson and De Gea. I was going to say one thing about, I mean, Spain have called De Gea up, haven't they? I would imagine they have, but I think if he gets a couple of games for them, it will help, sort of, as Corey was saying, with his match sharpness. And then if Ollie wants to, start him in the league then or in the cups, he'll be more sharp for that. But yeah, moving on to the defence. You started with Corey last time. I'll start with him again. What was what's your back four for the Leicester game?
I think we will stick with Wan-Bissaka right back. I think that's kind of obvious. 2 centre-back partnerships. Bai is out, so it'll probably be Maguire and Lindelof. And left back, given Shaw played in the Milan game, I think it might be Telles. But it's a possibility Shaw can play that game, but I think it will be Alex Telles on the left.
Yeah, Bay could be back. So I don't know. But United resurgence, would you have any sort of differentiation with that?
Yeah, this is a big match. We're playing against a big team. And I don't think you change your best back four, especially with an international break coming, so we can rest players during that time, or at least not have them playing for United, right? So for me, I would go with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, and Luke Shaw. I think that's our best back four. I think Tellez has his strengths, but the way that Luke Shaw progresses the ball, Tellez doesn't even come close. And I think we're going to need that against this Leicester City team. So for me, we go with the best back four, and we hope for the best from there.
I mean, last time we played Bay because of the pace. I know Ollie mentioned that. So possibly it could be Bay, but if he's back anyway, but we just don't know. Dan, what do you think?
If Bailly's back, there's definitely a case for him to play, just because they've got Vardy back and Iheanacho. They've got bags of pace. But I do agree with United resurging about you not changing the best back four we have, because when we play Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw, we've had very, very hard to score against. But then again, there also is a case for playing Tellez as well, because I mean, for one, they don't have Harvey Barnes. I mean, I can't remember if he played off the right or the left.
The left.
Okay, they don't have Harvey Barnes, and I think James Maddison's still out as well. I think Tellez could probably do a job on Iheanacho, and I can't even remember how they have that on the right. But I'd probably stick with our best back four. Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. Just I think that's our most stable back four. With Dino in goal, I think we look really, really comfortable in defence, and we're really hard to score against.
You know what I would hate if we play Shaw in this, because it would be his third game in a row, and sometimes when he sort of plays a few games in a row, I know he had like a hamstring injury last season because he was playing too many games. I think that's the reason why we bought Tellez, because we don't want Shaw to be playing too many games, and then in these sort of cup games we can play Tellez because he's not as good as Shaw, but I think we can at least trust him to do a decent job. Because I know we were playing Williams in the semi-final. I think we played him against Chelsea and against Sevilla. And he wasn't good enough against Sevilla. He was probably at fault for at least one of the goals. But I think we can rely on Tellez to at least put in a decent performance, as I said. So I would start him. But yeah, in terms of the midfield, who's back? I mean, I don't think Pogba can play 90 minutes, can he? So I think, Ollie said against Milan he could only play 45 minutes. So I'm not convinced he could play 90 all of a sudden now. So I'm not
Ollie
sure
said in his press conference that he can't play 90 minutes, but that doesn't mean he can't start. He could start and play 65, 70. So
yeah, but if we're in a troubling sort of spot, then would you rather bring him on or bring him off?
I would personally in midfield go with Matic, Pogba, and Bruno Fernandes, or maybe not Bruno Fernandes. He looked like he needed a break. So if Donny van de Beek is ready, maybe Pogba, Matic, and Donny van de Beek might be the way I would go. But I expect Ollie to rest Bruno.
Yeah,
I would like to see Donny. Has Donny played with Pogba and Matic before this season? I can't recall the time.
I think it'd be a clash with those two.
I think he's come off the bench, if I'm correct.
Possibly. I would love to see Donny get a start with Pogba and Matic. I mean, they've both got an excellent eye for a pass. Matic has got some good line breaking passes, and obviously all know Pogba's ability with his passes, and obviously with Donny van de Beek being the kind of number 10 that he is, please, I'll find a pocket of space now. You find me. And Bruno is sort of the opposite of that. So Donny with Pogba and Matic, who both have an eye for a pass, would be really good to see, actually. I'd like to see that.
Although now that I think about it, we're technically short on wingers as well. So there may be, we've seen Ollie use Van de Beek on the wing this season. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Bruno and Van de Beek play.
I'm surprised if we put Pogba on the wing.
Yeah, or that.
I was thinking, Dan said, as he played with Pogba and Matic before, he has against Everton in the cup, but he played on the left wing. So it's not really the same, is it? No. But I do think he'd be really good with them, because Pogba and Matic are really good at sort of progressing the ball forward and seeing that line breaking pass, and if he can pick up those sort of balls, then he can be really dangerous. Because if there is creativity around him, he doesn't sort of have that burden. He just get into the box and do what he's good at. But yeah, Corey, what would your sort of midfield be?
It's kind of interesting because we have McTominay and Fred, who's our best central partnership, who's our best two central mids. But I think we might need to use Matic simply because
There's a difference between best and most consistent. Don't forget that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They McTominay and Fred, when they're both in midfield together, they are the best that we have. There's no doubt about it. That is the way to go. But I think we have to use Matic for this because he can help the defense and he can help the passing. So whoever plays alongside Matic, that's going to be an interesting one. But we are short on wingers, so I think Pogba will play that left-hand side that we need if he does play.
Yeah. Because if he doesn't, then it could be Diallo, and I don't think you start Diallo in this. I mean, if he didn't start him against West Ham, he's not going to start him in this one. But yeah, Dan, what do you think? Would you play Diallo? Would you play Rashford if he's back? What do you think?
Oh god, I'm just glad that I don't have to make the decision on the day. I mean, because Rashford's definitely not back. I mean, we know Ollie said that, and it's obviously detrimental to us right now, but in the long term, it's going to be good because he's going to be able to rest, and he's probably going to miss the international break as well. So in the long term, it's probably good for him. But I probably wouldn't start Ahmad. No, to be honest. I think it's a big game against a really good side. It's quarterfinal of the FA Cup. But aside from that, who have we really got? I mean, we've got Dan James is probably going to start. He's probably going to start Greenwood at 9. Who have we even got to play on the left? I don't even know.
So that's why I'm actually thinking I'm going to slightly change what I said earlier. I would go with Bruno at number 10 and then go with Van de Beek on the left or on the right, either one, whichever works better. Dan James on the other wing and Mason Greenwood up front because we don't have anybody else.
Yeah, I think that would work really well. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that James and Greenwood have played so many games; they desperately need a rest. But you can't give them one because you don't have anyone else who can play there. So I think it's sort of it's really good that we got this sort of international break coming up. I know Dan James and Greenwood are playing for their respective countries. I mean, Greenwood is playing for the under-21s of England. So yeah, hopefully he can sort of score a couple of goals and get his confidence back up. I know it's not it's not the same level, but if you're scoring goals, then your confidence is going to go up. Doesn't matter who you're playing for. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to bring up.
Who did you all discuss for the front 3 hours occupied?
Who have we got?
It's difficult because Diallo, you're not going to start him because it's too much pressure.
Yeah, so what I had pitched, Corey, was the idea of going with Dan James and Van de Beek on the wings, Bruno at number 10, Mason Greenwood up front, purely because we don't have anybody else.
What do you think about that, Corey?
What was said?
Don't worry about it.
All I think is that I agree with me.
Yeah, well, just give us your opinion on who you'd start as sort of the front 3.
Pogba on the left. If Rashford can't play, I think Pogba will play on the left. If Bruno can start, I would play Bruno there. Because we
know if Martial's back, actually, saying that.
Ollie said that he's a doubt. What I would say is don't expect to see Martial, Cavani, or Rashford start this match at all.
I think it has to be James and Greenwood then, with Pogba on the left or Van de Beek.
So then who are you playing in midfield if you're playing Pogba on the left?
Matic 1 and either Fred or McTominay.
Okay, so you're not going to start Donny Van de Beek.
If he can start, if he can play, then I would play Van de Beek. But it's trouble.
Where would you play him?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do we play him on the right, play James on the left, or do we play him on Van de Beek on the left, then James on the right?
I think given that James's best position naturally is on the left, I think you have to play Van der Beek on the right. Van der Beek on the right. I mean, I know that's sort of shoehorning him into the side, but if you are going to play him out of position anyway, you might as well put James in his best position at the same time.
Personally, what I think would work really well, and I don't expect Ollie to do this at all, would be Mason Greenwood on the right, Dan James on the left, and Van de Beek up front as a false nine. Because the kind of number 10 that he is, making runs into space, picking up positions in those pockets, he can play that kind of Firmino-style striker role, which, while obviously we don't play with that kind of striker typically, we've got other options, but in an injury crisis, I think that would be a very interesting option. So personally, I would love to see him start with Van de Beek as leading the line, but I don't expect to see it.
I would love to see that, actually. That's a really good point.
Yeah, can you imagine Van de Beek picking up positions, and then you've got Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, and Nemanja Matic just picking him out constantly?
We just think of the balls that went into the box last night. James put in loads of fantastic crosses into the box last night. You've got Van de Beek coming on to the end of them. You never know, you might get goals.
Exactly.
That is a call for possession change. We could go for Greenwood, James as the two strikers, and we could just play Bruno, Van der Beek, Matic, and Pogba as the midfield.
Yeah, that's workable too.
Because I think when we brought on Diallo, or when we had Greenwood and James at one point, we did switch to both of them as strikers at one point in a match. I think that worked. I think that improved us. So it depends where.
You say Diallo up top? Is that what you just said?
No. When we brought on Diallo, he's played alongside someone up front.
Oh yeah. I remember that was the Milan game, wasn't it?
Yeah, towards the end of the Milan game.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying start Diallo up front. That would just be stupid.
I think he did. I think Ahmad definitely gets minutes. You know, at the weekend. If you're fit, you play at the minute, isn't it?
I don't think Diallo will start. I don't think Diallo will start.
No.
Oh no, definitely not. But maybe 10-15 minutes at the end.
Yeah. Well, it depends if we're like 3-0 up, and then we could just bring on Diallo.
If we're 3-0 up, then I don't even know what to say. I can't imagine a world where we're 3-0 up.
I will eat my hat.
I don't want to say that because then someone will actually ask for me to eat my hat in the comments. So I'll pass on eating my hat.
He did
100 likes for a surgeon to eat his hat.
Absolutely not, but Dan volunteers to do it.
I ain't got no hat.
I got a hat in the cupboard.
You can mail it me from Wales, can you?
Yeah, I could. I think it says New York City on it. Never been, but it says New York City on it. Yeah.
I think it's prediction time.
Yeah, I don't know what Corey just said, but yeah, in terms of predictions.
You had a hat in the cupboard. Which is your Welsh hat?
Yeah, I don't have one. But in terms of predictions, I think it's going to go to extra time 1-1, and then we'll win on penalties, or we'll win 2-1 in extra time. Corey, what do you think?
I'll back a 2-1 win.
Dan?
I'll agree with Corey. I'll say 2-1 win or 0-0.
Yeah, and then United Resurgent.
So it was brought to my attention before this podcast by Dan that whenever I predict that United are going to have a bad result, we seem to do okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Leicester City win this match 3-1.
Yeah!
No, I really don't think we'll lose. I do think we'll go ahead and win this 1-2-1. But for the sake of us winning and getting a good result, my official prediction will be 3-1 Leicester City, even though I don't believe it.
It's not your prediction if you know that's not going to happen.
Sure, Corey. Leave it. But yeah, I think we'll end it there. Thanks you everyone for watching. It's been quite long, I don't know. But thank you everyone. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.